Stuff that's gotta go on
The
record.
writers were back, right? They strike his card.
Well, I was getting it right from her,
The agenda.
Yeah.
yeah, from the agenda.
Jimmy's here.
She sent out on
Jimmy's
Saturday.
here.
Right?
Yeah, hang on, guys.
Oh my God. Oh,
I have a little script in it.
yeah.
Oh, by the one she sent me,
It's the funniest thing. I'm just, I did it yesterday. Oh. Read it once. This is that. This.
It's that, you got names here, right?
Those are minutes.
Yeah, but maybe we.
Oh, I know. I can go by guy. Oh, actually, yeah, because of the
You know.
people who are.
Yep,
I'd be
yep.
happy. Thank you. Your engineering mind. Going to work.
Recording in progress.
Okay, you good?
Wow.
Nope.
Go echo.
Hello, 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 hello.
Sorry for the delay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Virginia Harger. I'm the chairperson of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is Wednesday, September 27th, 2023, and the special meeting of the commission being held in the auditorium in City Hall through Zoom, and a phone link is hereby called to order at 6:04 p.m. Would all please rise to pledge the allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'll start off with a roll call. Please indicate, verbally indicate you're present when your name is called. Commissioner Kelly,
Present.
Commissioner Motto.
Here.
Commissioner Parkins.
Here.
Commissioner Tiki,
Present.
Commissioner Laskos,
Present.
and myself, Commissioner Harger. And we have Commissioner Donato.
Present.
Okay. Also, Mr. Rossetti, our Planning and Zoning Administrator. Ms. Castro, our Assistant Zoning Administrator.
You just have to log out.
Okay. And Sarah Vanasos, our Recording Secretary.
Present.
Okay, and Stephanie Charbonneau, our stenographer.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Panico, our consultant.
Present.
Okay, and
To lock up.
just want to note for the record that Commissioner Onofrio was not available for this evening's meeting.
Oh, Jimmy.
Yes, I did.
Oh,
It's better so.
Yep. Okay, this evening's agenda includes the opening of 2 public hearings. And after the public hearing has started and the applicant has made their presentation, and during the presentation, the commission can ask questions of the applicant, which they can answer at the time or choose to hold off. When we go into the public portion of the public hearing, if there's anyone here in the auditorium that would like to make any comments on the either public hearing, there's a sign-up sheet here in the front of the room. At the time of the public hearing, I will ask for comments from, besides those in the auditorium, but those that are participating through Zoom and also a phone link. And anybody participating through Zoom should raise their hand, use the raise your hand feature to be acknowledged, and use *9 if they're using a phone. We would be starting off with elected officials of the city of Shelton, and then go into people who are here in person, city of Shelton participating remotely. And speakers will be asked, allowed 5 minutes to present comments. This is, seeing that there is this is an opening of a public hearing. Comments need to be addressed the merits of the application. And we would ask that anyone from the public that is participating and submitting comments to not repeat comments that have been previously made. Commissioner Amato, would you read the call of the hearing, please?
Initiation of application 23-15, Dominic Thomas for 740 River Road LLC at 740 River Road, Assessors Map 21, Lot 50, to establish a PDD and approve initial development plans for 51 side-by-side residential condominiums and on-site parking. Initial concept plans entitled Initial Development Concept Plans, Residential Development, 740 River Road, Shelton, Connecticut, prepared by James R. Swift, BE, professional engineer, landscape architect, dated August 22, 2023, are on file in the Planning and Zoning Office. This property is generally bound as follows: northerly by 726 River Road, easterly by Houstonic River, southerly by 762 River Road, and westerly by 745 River Road.
Thank you, Commissioner Amato. I'd just like to note for the record that this application was accepted for review by the commission on September 13th. And posted on the city's website are several documents, including the application for zone change, the statement of uses and standards, the initial concept plans, architecturals, and elevations of the buildings. And there are 3 reports, actually 4 reports: a drainage report, one that is called the site remediation report, another one that's a phase 1 ESA report, and the last is a EDR summary radius map report. So is the applicant present?
Yes, Madam Chair, Attorney Dominic Thomas, Cohen & Thomas, 315 Main Street, Derby, Connecticut, representing the applicant. Just a couple of house cleaning measures on the agenda as it was read. It indicates 51 units, and it indicates they're all duplexes. I just want to clarify in the statement of uses, it does specify that there are 25 duplexes, 50 units in duplexes, and 1 standalone unit. And then I think as you were reading how it was bounded, I may not have heard it correctly. I think it was said it was bounded by 726 River Road. It's bounded by 762 River Road, which of course is the next hearing. We're amending that PDD 72, and that is the adjacent property is 762. With that, I'll just briefly identify the parcel, which is an industrial parcel that borders on the Housatonic River, in which more recently has been Winair. The property borders Autoswage, which is part of another PDD that is pending before you, and it borders PDD 72, which is a commercial a building in the front with restaurants and other businesses, medical, and a medical office building in the back. This proposal is for high-end luxury condominiums with water view. It's a relatively straightforward proposal, and as Jim Swift, the engineer, will explain to you, It has already received its wetlands approval and has been brought before the WPCA since the sewer will be connecting to Stratford. So with that, I would turn it over to Jim Swift to present the engineering plan. And Jim, you just let me know whether I need to screen share or you will.
Attorney Thomas, before we get
Yeah.
going, this is existing right now as an IA2. Has the current property owner put this on the market at all for some kind of use that would not require a zone change?
Mr. Saffron's here, but I do not think so, that this, I'm not sure what you mean. No, it basically, when this was purchased, the intent was to develop it for residential use. And initially, so you understand, initially, the proposal was going to be for a PDD that encompassed the residence and the medical office building. At my advice, looking at the way it laid out, the medical office building was better off being made part of PDD 72, which is 762 River Road, and amending that PDD, since the entrance to the medical office building was going to be through that site rather than its own entrance. So in fact, it was proposed as medical office, but we just, at my advice, that portion of the development is being attached to PDD 72.
All right, be that as it may, but the majority of the property had not ever been marketed for use permitted in an IA2 zone.
Dominic, I can make a comment if you don't mind.
Okay.
Howard Safan, the owner of the property.
Mhm.
I chased the property for over 12 years. The property itself has 3 warehouses on it, all of which are in deplorable shape. The ability to renovate those warehouses is unrealistic in today's market. And frankly, you would need all new electric, HVAC, plumbing throughout them, and it's just economically not feasible.
Yeah, I would not expect Mr. Saffron to for the existing warehouses to be remodels and such. But seeing that you would have to bring in a number of utilities anyways for a residential project, it stands within reason as far as I would say that a whole new warehouse or something that you see up on Constitution Boulevard might have been something at a little bit more easier to have on this particular piece of property. Light industrial is still something that the city does get questions about, and if there is property available for such things. So I just wanted to just confirm as to what approach you had taken.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on the assessment. Unfortunately, over the years, we've had to look at these 3 structures along, and it does not take advantage of the water. And we just thought that this would be a better usage.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have Jim Swift.
Yep. Good evening. My name is Jim Swift, landscape architect, professional engineer. Yeah, Dom, if you could share the screen and put up the survey would be good.
Okay, if see here, host disabled screen sharing. Alex, can you?
It's coming.
So this is the existing survey of the property. And you can see as Dominic described it, you know, we're obviously on River Road. We have the auto swage property to the north, which is to our left, the river up on the top of the sheet, and existing PDD number 72 to the south. The 3 warehouse buildings that are referenced, 2 of them are immediately on the water. And actually, frankly, a little bit too close to the water. There was a lot of filling on the embankment that probably shouldn't have taken place. And then the third one is more towards the center of the site. And as was noted, it's currently in an IA2 zone. The total site as it stands right now is 10.3 acres. What we're proposing to do as part of this planned development district is give up 1.83 acres of the site that Dominic is highlighting right now back over to PDD number 72. So that, just to clarify, the entire site is going to be broken up into those two different parcels. There's no need for a subdivision or anything fancy. It can be just an equal, just a land transfer. But that is our intention. So if we go to the site, plan,
Mr. Swift, Commissioner Amato had a question
What is that other property it's going to?
where Fatty Patty is and Parker.
well, that's Parker's, where Dominic is pointing now, is Parker's and the retail portion of the site. And obviously, and when we get to the second public hearing, I'll be explaining a lot more about what's going on over there. But yeah, that's Parker's there, and Orthopedic Specialty Group is in the building back towards the rear, towards the river.
Mhm,
So they're getting the almost 2 acres.
mhm.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So going to the site plan. We're proposing 51 townhouse style dwellings. Each dwelling, and Joe Mingalello will get into more detail, of course, but each dwelling has a 2-car garage for each dwelling. We are also providing a minimum of 18 feet out to the main driveway for the development. So that provides 2 visitor spaces on the driveway apron. And we're also providing 20 additional visitor spaces in 3 separate areas on the site. And there's a kind of a confusing line here, this heavy dark line that goes through the middle of the driveway. That's a computer gremlin. You can just ignore that. That shouldn't be there. So we have a total of 224 spaces, or a total of 4.4 spaces per dwelling unit. The main driveway access to our site is going to be directly opposite the Crescent Village driveway. So we're not causing any intersection issues out on the River Road. The driveway is 30 feet until you get down to the first intersection into the interior of the site. And then from thence on, it's 26 feet wide thereafter. We had been using 24, but I think the commission is starting to go a little bit in the direction of 26. And, you know, it gives a little more room to maneuver. And again, for the record, this driveway layout is completely accessible to all the emergency fire apparatus that the city of Chilton has. Of course, for the multi-story ladder truck, which we wouldn't expect to go to this site. And if we can go to the grading plan. So we have a site that has 2 pipe discharges into a water course on the northern section of the site. That you can see it's a water course, but only where those 2 pipes discharge into it. And it's a rather steep valley, which you can see is we're avoiding it, staying away from that. Otherwise, the site is pretty well graded. It's got a moderate slope from front to back, but nothing too much to handle. It's easily developed. So there's not much grading. The driveway is got about a 10% grade coming into the site, but it flattens out almost immediately.
Plan amendments have any concerns about the pipe that's on the left by units 1 and 2?
units 1 and 2. I'm going to discuss that because that gets into part of the discharges. Well, I'll discuss it now. So we have underground water retention and detention systems. There's a couple of those on the site. They're rather detailed designed because, as Dominic mentioned, we do have the inland wetlands approval already. And all those discharges fall to that pipe that you point out is at units 1 and 2. That discharge in those pipes are permitted in their current form by the Inland Wetlands Commission. And in point of fact, that discharge will also have a drainage easement extending back up to PDD 72, which I'll get into when we start talking about that project and that hearing. We are using a low velocity system because we're fairly low down by the river. Each individual unit has its own individual pump. They all pump up to a low velocity system that you can see extending out the southwest corner of the site over into PDD 22. Go a little bit lower down. Yeah, there it's right, goes through the open property there. And that low velocity system has been reviewed and approved by the Shelton WPCA. And again, just for the record, all other utilities, water, et cetera, electric, communications are all available to the site as it exists right now. If you go to the next drawing, Don. So this is an interesting drawing that was specifically requested by the Inland Wetlands Commission. The existing warehouses were built fairly close to the river, and it's hard to know whether this embankment down to the river was a result of those buildings or was a natural form of the river eroding. But in any case, the question was raised, well, you know, that's a fairly steep slope. 2-on-1 is more of a normal slope. Shouldn't we design these houses, these duplexes, so we have long-term reliability that they won't be affected by the river? So that's what we did. We did these sections. You can see that the 2-on-1 slopes are projected into the area. We don't expect it to ever come to that, but it certainly is a possibility. So we did that for the Wetlands Commission. I'll also address the FEMA elevations. The FEMA 100-year return storm is at elevation 14, which you can see is fairly low. And we're up at elevations 30, 32 for our basement. So there's no question of any effect from 100-year storm events, even 1,000-year. I mean, you know, major storm events. Nothing is going to reach up that high.
Mr. Swift,
Yep.
could you just clarify section A and section B? I see both of them noted right below the building that's pictured there. Both say proposed grade, both say existing disturbance limit, both say potential future 2-to-1 slope. The difference I see is on the building on the right, the dotted line, that's like an imaginary line, goes through the first floor of the building.
Yeah.
And A, and B, it's way down below. So what are these in two different areas of that driveway?
No, the dashed line is the existing grade,
Right.
and the hatched area is the proposed grade.
Right.
So
What's the difference
let me.
on the right side? Where
I'm sorry?
What's the difference on the right side? You have two buildings, two trees, and you have, you know, what's it?
There's two different elevations on this sheet. One section rather is taken through one portion of the site, and another section is taken through a different portion of the site.
That's what I was asking. These are in two different areas along the
Right,
site.
so you can see that on the elevation, I'm sorry, I keep saying elevation. On this section, you can see that the existing grade is well below a lot of the proposed construction. So
Mhm.
what we're doing is we're balancing the site for cut and fills, where, you know, we don't have any intention of trucking anything, any major earthwork volumes on or off of the site. So those two different houses, those two different dwellings that you're looking at are the dwellings that are closest to the river. Then you see the driveway, and then the dwellings that are on the other side of the main driveway. But I also want to make a couple of points on the section at the river itself. And I want to be very clear. We have no intention of grading out that potential future 2-on-1 slope. That is purely a precautionary indication. Wetlands would like us to maintain all the vegetation that's on the existing embankment to the river, with the exception of, and I've walked this embankment extensively with John Cook. We actually did it in the winter. We were walking on the river ice, which got pretty interesting. You almost lost both of us in that walk. But we're going to remove some invasive species. We're going to remove some dead and dying trees that, if they were to collapse, could affect the stability of the bank. But you can see the series of notes: embankment landscaping, no healthy trees above 4 inches to be removed, dead and diseased, pruning branches, et cetera, all is going to be heavily monitored by inland wetlands and the inland wetlands staff. And in addition to that, at the top of the embankment, we're gonna plant specific plantings that are enhancements to wildlife and stability for a certain distance at the top of the embankment, and that's to serve two purposes. One is to give a definition to where these people can extend out their use to. And I'm going to point out, this is not a fee ownership situation. This is a condominium. People aren't allowed to go out and back there and do whatever they want to do back there. Condos aren't run like that. So there's some landscape.
You're referencing information that's on sheet 5. Did you want to have that brought up?
I'm sorry?
You're referencing a lot of information that's on sheet 5. Do you want to move forward to that sheet?
Well, I just want to make one last point while you're looking at this particular sheet. You're going to notice a little depression between that proposed landscaping, top of embankment plantings in the building. You're going to see it's a low area. And what that is that's intentionally designed in there so that we don't have any runoff, no fertilizers for lawns or anything like that discharge directly to the river. Now we can go to the next sheet. And we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. This is the conceptual soil erosion control plan. It's fairly detailed for the purposes of inland wetlands, but it will be even more detailed when we actually submit for the full permit. The next sheet is the landscape plan. And you can see that the areas behind all the units that front along the river have that typical top of embankment planting detail. But you're also going to see down where that pipe discharge is by units 1, 2, or 1 and 2 rather, that there's a very detailed planting plan and slope mitigation plan going on there. And that was required by the Inland Wetlands Commission. We've got a little sloping. We've got some areas down there that are kind of junk species, some dead trees, some logs, things like that. We're going to clean that up and make it presentable and more in line with what Inland Wetlands likes to see for wetlands and wildlife enhancement. And the remainder of the landscape plan is conceptual. That's the kind of thing excuse me, that we'll be looking at in more detail. I'm sure Tony Panico will have comments about that as far as how we buffer plantings, what standard details, planting details we'll have along all the units, et cetera. Next plan. Again, this is a stormwater detail plan that has a lot more detail than this commission is used to seeing on an initial development plan. But it was done because it was required by the Inland Wetlands Commission to be sure that all our discharges, all our runoff rates, all our water quality issues were all addressed. And then the last plan is, next plan is just a rough profile of the low velocity sanitary sewer. And again, this sheet is included in the set because it's important to the WPCA, and even the city engineer's office wanted to see it just to make sure that things were copacetic for that. So again, we have WPCA approval for this line. And that, without any questions, that concludes the site presentation.
Okay, Mr. Panico, do you have any questions for Mr. Swift?
Not at the present time. I have a few general questions at the end of the presentation.
Okay, any commissioner have any questions for Mr. Swift? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Thomas, who do you want to move to next? Attorney Thomas. Attorney Thomas there? You muted? Did you?
I was muted, my apology. The next presentation will be Mr. Mingalello, Joseph Mingalello, who I understand is there in present, so he shouldn't have any audio problems at this point. And I will bring up the architectural plan set.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Mingalello, Mingalello and Associate Architects. Our office is located at 90 Huntington Street here in Shelton. The first plans we're going to show you are what we call Unit A, and this is the one. Unit A faces and is adjoins are up against the water river. Dom, can you pick it up a little bit? We got a basement floor plan. We'll start with that. That's the lowest level. There's 2 bedrooms, elevator, stair, laundry, toilet room, closet. So that's the lowest level. And that's at the, and when you saw the side elevations that Jim presented, that faces and right adjacent to that flat area, adjacent to the water. And then the ground floor plan, the next level up, this is where we have the garage and the entrance. So this is right at grade, right at the street level. And you walk in a little foyer and a food closet there. And then we have a living room and dining area that is open to a deck and to lots of glass facing the water. And then from the garage, if you came in from the garage, we got a little half bath, coat closet, and a kitchen. And basically the whole first floor is open. And then you take the next level up, you can take the elevator or the stair, and it's a master bedroom suite, master bathtub, right on looking over the water, shower, toilet, walk-in closet. Okay, so that's the floor plan.
Can I just ask you, on
sure.
the basement floor plan, there's no walkout?
On the basement?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
there is.
they're sliding glass doors, and you'll see them in the elevation.
Okay, but not
Yeah.
on the right side, it's this big open room on the left.
It's you pan over just to the lowest level. There you go. See those 2 bedrooms? Those are on grade.
Mhm,
Okay, and there's sliding glass doors that are facing the water. You walk out on grade.
from the bedrooms.
From the bedrooms.
Oh.
Correct. Yep. All right, Dom, you want to go to the next sheet? We'll look at the elevations and the building section. Okay, go pan over to the right. front elevation, that's the, a little bit further over. Okay, so the front and. That's good, thank you. That's the front of the building, it's what we call the street elevation. You get the garage and recessed back of the entrance doors. And it's basically vertical siding, and I'll show you a color. We colored up the both units A and B, so you can look at the color and the treatment, roofing, so on and so forth. Very traditional looking, dormers up into the attic area, vertical siding, thin stone veneer on the lower level. Okay. I'm going to pan over to the right and look at this is the side elevation, left and right side elevation. And as you can see, as the grade slopes down towards the water, and you have the deck up above, and that's where those lower bedrooms exit at that grade. Okay, that's the side elevation. And then the rear elevation, water elevation, what we call water elevation, those are your sliding glass doors from the lower level. And then we have from the dining and living room up above, it's all glass. And then the master bedroom suite, lots of glass, and that's the bathroom. I'm sorry, forgot what space that is. But anyway, that's the rear elevation of the building. Okay. If we can go to the next drawing, which are units B. Okay. Now, units B, as you saw, units A are along the water. Units B are inland, and we work against the grade slopes from the street towards the back of the building. So the right side, we have the basement floor plan. So you pull into the garage, and at that level, there's an elevator and a stair to go to the main level and some basement space. If you're outside parking in front of the doors, the garage doors, you can walk up. There's a set of stairs, a little planter in the front, a set of stairs that go up about halfway to a little portico, a little entry porch, and that's where you'll enter. So we go to the ground floor, which is the next plan to the left, and you can see you come up that portico up a few steps. Then you walk into the house, and then you walk up another half a flight. Okay, so you're going 2 half flights to get up to the living space. So it's a living room right there on the left, and then the kitchen is between. It's a walk-through kitchen between the dining or / den area and the deck. So that's the living space. There's a powder room, and as you come up from the basement, you want to take the elevator, you get off at that stop, that level. And then the level above is the second floor. We have 3 bedrooms. As you come and get off the elevator, you take the stair up, you got the master fate. Okay, the master bedroom's on the back side, master bathroom, walk-in closet, shower, closets, and then the elevators there, a bathroom, another bathroom in that space that will service bedroom number 2 and 3. Okay, and then the level above that is the attic. You can use that as an office or a guest suite, whatever we wanted, use it for. There's a dormer out front. You'll see that in the elevations. Okay, and windows on the back, so it's well lit, lots of glass. And a little knee wall on the back side. Dom, can you go to the next sheet, which is the elevations and building section? And so this is the building section. As you can see, we're working. You come in at the garage level, and then you get a basement, and then the level above is we're working into the grade, and you see it on the elevations. The living space, kitchen, den, bedrooms on the next level, and then some attic space above that could be used as an office. We go to the front elevation, right side. There you go. Okay, so this is the street elevation. Okay, garage under, portico coming up halfway. The big windows is the living room. 2 windows above, the 2 smaller bedrooms, and then that shed dormer up on top is in the attic space or the additional space for office guest space. Again, it's the same siding materials that we're thinking on both the interior and the exterior buildings, vertical siding and board and batten style. We're thinking about, we'll look at the colored elevations, black frame windows and thin stone veneer for a base. This left side elevation, right side are opposite. You can see as the grade slopes from the street, slopes up towards the back where the deck is. It's probably 4 feet above the grade in the back as we work the buildings into the grade. So that's the side elevation, and then the rear elevation to the left of that is the sliding glass doors. There's 12 foot of glass there for the dining space. That's the dining room and little den in the corner, and then the bedrooms above. That's the master bedroom above.
Mhm.
Okay.
Do you have a divider here between the left and right side on the patio, on the deck?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
For privacy,
Yep.
definitely.
Yep.
That'll definitely happen. You can see it here on
Yep.
the rear elevation. There's the fire. Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Don, can you bring up the colored elevation? These are the two colored elevations we did. A little magic marker. This is the front or unit A is the one. Unit A here is the one that is adjacent to the waters on the water. It's the garage. Thin stone veneer down below. Vertical board and batten siding. We really like the look of black frame windows with board and batten. It's really
nice.
yeah, and I think that'd be a great color and use combination for this development. So that's the unit A that faces that's adjacent to the water. And the one to the right, unit B. Okay, and then this is the same thing, same use, same materials. And again, this is the basically the 3-story or the unit B that we constructing into the hill or into the grade, as the grade slopes up away from us. Any questions about the materials, the colors, the architecture?
For units B, you're the ones that are the inner circle
Yes,
and
everything
the
in,
round here.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
So you have 25 that
Yeah,
are
there's 25
the ones that are
on the water.
on the water.
Yes,
And the balance, the rest of them go inside.
our unit Bs, that's correct. Yep.
Any questions from any of the commissioners for Mr. Mingalello?
My first reaction looking at it, they look like barns, to be
Mm.
honest with
Mm.
you. It could be
I
the,
think because of the doors, right?
yeah, I think.
Well, they
the
are,
doors,
yeah.
Yeah,
But also the height of the roof.
yeah. Well, it is a pitch. So at first I thought, are these gambrel roofs? 'Cause
No,
it's the
no,
drawing,
they're,
I get that.
yep, they're.
And this portion on A2 here is just this little section
That's
here?
correct.
Okay.
Yep,
Is there
that's
an
all.
alternative garage door that you might consider?
No, I mean, absolutely. We would like to add some glass to the doors, but yeah, we can get something different. Mhm. There's a
I-
lot of options out there.
Those doors kind of turn me off too.
Mhm.
Joe, as you were explaining unit B, I noticed on the main floor, after you go in the front and up the half a step to the living area, I didn't see
Yep.
any closets for hanging your coats.
Oh.
I'm not an architect. I just happened to notice it.
Yeah, it's right there. See, a
No.
unit.
Now, if you look at the ground floor plan. All right,
Oh.
that's where you come in from the front door. If you're a guest,
No, you come, the front door, okay, is the next level up, ground floor. You come up a half a flight, then you go up another half a flight of stairs. And there's a
Yeah.
closet right there.
It's double
Yeah.
door.
It's
Okay,
it's
where-
right in
well,
front of the
there's-
powder.
No,
there's
it's right
now
there.
I see it.
Yeah, see it?
Okay,
It's
I
right
didn't see that before.
adjacent to the powder room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
I didn't see that before. I just looked right past it, I guess.
that's okay.
They're tiny.
So we had a couple questions over here about the elevators.
Yep.
Are they gonna be in all the units or is that an option?
Absolutely. They're all in
Yeah,
all the
that's
units.
interesting, yeah.
Correct.
And Frank wanted to know if they're big enough for.
A wheelchair.
Yes.
A wheelchair.
Yeah.
So if somebody
Mhm.
wanted to buy one of these.
Yep.
Put a wheelchair in there, you would accommodate
Oh,
Can accommodate.
we have to do it by ADA law, absolutely.
Mhm.
So that
Yes.
would accommodate.
As
Yes.
well as the bathrooms.
Oh, the bath, yes.
For the first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, when I was in high school, I worked for an old lady who had an elevator in her house and it was run with a rope. I
Yeah.
had to take her up with the rope.
It's like a dumbwaiter. Kind of
Creeped
thing.
me out. I
Yes.
gotta tell you.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Well, when you get in multi-story buildings like this, I mean, you really need an elevator because,
I would think that would have
That's what they
great
got
appeal.
at those condos across from where Starbucks is now. They've
Yeah.
got
They
elevators.
have-
well, we
There's
did,
some
when
too.
we did Aspen Ridge in
Yeah.
2000, I mean,
John
if
Paul's
they,
the one.
John Paul's, yes, they were fantastic. That was a big
Yeah,
deal.
that's.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
it's
so
basically
cool.
same concept of building into the hill. You got 3 stories, 4 stories. Yeah. No, it's very important.
Okay, any other questions, comments, or considerations from any of the commissioners?
Not specifically for Joe, but just curious, probably Attorney Thomas will address it, but what makes this eligible for a PDD?
It's, it exceeds the 20,000 square feet that is the requirement on a River Road, and it's in the IA2 zone. It's not surrounded by residential.
But PDD is intended to be a transitional zone. And it just seems like all the PDDs that are coming in are for housing. I just, it just seems like a way to get housing in where it doesn't belong.
Mhm.
No, that is not what is in 34.1. 34.1 allows a plan development district. It's A or B. And in 34.1A, it talks about the area along the River Road in special development area. And you have in fact approved PDDs. PDDs are not designated by use in any fashion. PDDs have always been used where you both residential, commercial, office. They've used it where the normal zoning regulations don't fit. And clearly, this is a situation where the normal zoning regulations don't fit. But in 34.1A, in the regulations, it talks about areas identified by PDDs. Did I just lose you or what?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, I did, something just went wrong with my screen. I'm trying to, okay. In 34.1, it identifies Bridgeport Avenue specifically in River Road. So it has identified that. Then later on, when they made some changes, River Road, I believe, and if it fronts on River Road, it shrunk it down to 20,000 square foot. But in fact, this is it. But PDDs have normally been used for a multitude of uses. This type of use that is not available under current zoning. And this type of use is not available under current zoning, under any zone, whether it's IA2, residential, or any fact, it is not available. Neither are any one of the other residential ones, including all the ones downtown Reddings, because that's why you see a lot of residential.
If I could interject, I'd also like to point out that this is in a coastal area management area, being directly on the water like this, and that has to be considered as well. You know, that would, unless you have an IA and an industrial use that's directly related to the water, the residential use is more in keeping with the coastal area management intentions than a lot of other uses are.
Getting back to Ruth's concern, the restrictive components that began to get incorporated into your PDD regulations were intended primarily to control the location of PDD so that they're not plopped in the middle of single-family residential zones. The original intent of the PDD was to allow them to replace other forms of similar commercial and non-commercial development. So there's not much question about the eligibility, I don't believe.
Well, it's granted at the discretion of the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's not an automatic right, so.
Mhm.
Correct, yeah, it is its own change. It is, you're acting in your legislative capacity.
Zone is, you know, I know that's the old Pine Crest,
Mhm.
which was
right.
probably
Oh, yeah.
recreation. I don't know.
Yeah,
No.
would that be
Yeah.
commercial? Is that what?
Restaurant.
Yeah, they had
Yeah.
a catering facility.
That's
for
right.
weddings.
Catering.
Yeah.
Catering hall. Swimming pool, picnic ground.
Across the street,
And
yeah.
how about
Both
where
actually, there's two.
Toll
PDD.
Brothers built? Wasn't that a
It is a
PDD too?
PDD. It is a PDD.
Yeah, you're talking about Crescent Village?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Took away our wonderful concert location where we used to have those pleasant little concerts with no
Jam
noise
stuff.
whatsoever.
Cool. And so what kind of amenities were being offered at this? I didn't see any pool or clubhouse or
I
step
think
to
the-
water, beach down there, or dog park, or walking trails.
The biggest amenity is the ability to sit out on your deck, whether it's the deck off the living room or the deck off your bedroom with an appropriate libation and observe the wonderful view of the Housatonic River Valley.
When you can see it.
Mhm.
When you can,
Yeah, the most expensive ones on the river will.
Yeah.
And it's not winter,
The rest of them will be looking at each other.
so. Okay, anything else, Attorney Thomas?
no, not at this time. Again, we're prepared to answer any questions. We don't think there are any issues or other issues that would come up, and you'll be hearing a sort of a follow-up when we get to the next PDD.
But before we go on, I did have a question. We have these two huge reports. The site remediation report, what drove that getting done?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get all the question.
We have a site remediation report
Oh, yes, the environmental.
for that.
Yes, well, there was some questions concerning the fill and everything that was on the site. And it was requested that we produce any reports as to the site cleanup. I think it's also a site because it was an industrial site that had some issues. So Mr. Safan produced for me the documentation that he obtained when we purchased it and when he purchased it, and the follow-up environmental documentation, just for the record. It was requested by Mr. Rosetta.
Okay, so this came from P and Z staff that requested, it wasn't an inland wetlands kind of thing.
No, it was requested by P and Z staff.
Okay, and could you just summarize what the conclusion is for the site remediation report?
I can pull it up. Basically, there was remediation took place. There was removal that took place. And when they came back in, I think they did an update in 2023. And they found that the property was satisfactory for its use and the environmental issues had been addressed.
Okay, I see dates on page 2 that activity started in early 2022 and continued through the summer. And so this was, the bulk of this was done and completed from to the beginning to say the fall of 2022. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. And I think there is I don't have, I can bring up the items, but I think there is a reference report dated in 2023. But yes, the activity, I think the main activity may have even taken place before 2022 when they with manifests and they remove the soil, they remove soil from the site.
Commissioner Kelly just pointed out, top of page 5, the first full sentence says, based on the analytical results, no further action is indicated. So that is for the whole site itself. Correct?
Again, with the disclaimer that I'm not the environmental lawyer, I just filed the reports. Yes, I believe that is correct, that they reviewed the entire site.
All right, and then you have hygienics. that is the environmental site assessment. Was that them? That was done, that was preceded the report that we just talked about, the remediation? Is that how it worked?
They did an initial phase one report. That was the first thing done. Then you had the remediation report, and you had a follow-up. And I'm
Okay.
giving that to you for memory.
All right, do you want to do anything about this engineering report at this time?
That was something that was drafted by Mr. Swift, and Mr. Swift, I don't know if you can address it now or wants to address it in the amendment to PDD 72.
No, I can address that now. I mean, when we originally made the application to inland wetlands, it was comprehensive with our proposed addition to PDD 72 and the application we're talking about now was the same application. But once we decided to split the two projects, the engineering report was also split. So even though they are closely related, you're going to see another separate stormwater engineering report for PDD 72 that will also stand on its own. So the report you're looking at for this project and the report you look at for PDD 72 are separate. They have a lot of things in common, but they stand on their own.
Okay, I just want to point out for the commission, something that we may not necessarily see very often is the annual maintenance checklist. So that is the responsibility of the property owner
Correct.
to on an annual basis. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And that's filed at City Hall or? Except for
Is
that.
that new code or something?
Well, it's part of the it's part of the city's engineers program. He's supposed to be taking these reports. I'm not sure how many of these reports he's actually taken so far, but they're there, they're required, and they're available to the owners to complete.
I believe it's contained in the stormwater maintenance ordinance, so correct, for the new, that's part of the requirements in that ordinance.
Yeah, I just, I'm off the top of my head, I'm not sure which it was required by.
Okay, I'll just ask Mr. Rossetti as for staff to just confirm that particular application of it.
Who would do that? HOA?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking, what is this a new regulation or new code or new requirement? I've never heard of it before.
No, I've been submitting these checklists for, I believe, the last 7 years. If you look at all my reports, my engineering stormwater reports, you'll find those checklists in there.
You've been doing this for a lot longer than 7 years. So did it just start 7 years ago? Is my question.
I
Yes.
believe it's part
Yes.
of the storm, that's about the time when the stormwater ordinance was put into effect. It was, I think, a lot of the drafting of the stormwater ordinance was done by your prior engineer, Robert Kulas. And it was adopted as a stormwater ordinance. And then at that point, if you'll notice in the statement of uses and standards, and a lot of them, it makes reference to your stormwater ordinance and compliance with your stormwater ordinance. Most of the time, you did not get involved in it. Really, that was part of the engineering review. And the engineer would review that and make sure it complied with the stormwater ordinance, and which contains the requirement that any stormwater features need to be maintained appropriately by the entity that owns the property, whether it's a commercial shopping center, whether it's a condominium, whether it's whatever, and they are required to do that. But the genesis of it was the stormwater ordinance that was, I'm sure there were other people besides Bob Kulas that drafted it, but that came about 7, 8 years ago, something of that effect.
It's clearly something that should be put in the document, the declaration of the HOA, so that
Mhm.
those folks know, the people that
They
are,
have
you
to
know,
do that,
that are
yeah.
running that board or running that association know that that's required of
I,
them. So.
that's, that, I don't get involved in declarations, but you're absolutely correct. It should be in there to inform them what their responsibilities are.
Okay, that's all I was questioning is it's the first time I've
Yeah.
ever heard that there's such a checklist.
Yeah.
Doing this for a long time.
Mr. Rossetti, did you find anything? No, okay. Mr. Rossetti will research and report back to us, because I can imagine that this is not going to be a public hearing that's going to be closed. Now, the final document that was put on file is the EDR summary radius map report. And can someone address what
Well,
this was all?
that's, that, and again, from my review of it, that is just a document identifying all the surrounding properties that
Mhm.
had reports at Deep and other, in their doing their research at all the databases, the environmental databases.
So is it reasonable to believe that if those reports that are already on file had some areas of concern, that would have been picked up for this particular applicant to recognize?
It is part of the necessary research when you're doing a phase one or anything else to identify what properties are around you. In this case, I'm sure Hygienics did its work appropriately. It would have identified, of course, the auto switch parcel. It would have identified the landfill, which are, serious brownfield areas. And what they do is they check that out, make sure there's no migration or anything of that nature. And if there was, then they would have identified it.
Yeah, just based on what's shown on page 2 is 31 different pieces of property from 740 to 851 River Road that are the mapped sites. So as you go through that particular report, there's a lot of detail as to licenses that they have and things that were going on. So
Is there any CZM review needed for this project? From Deep?
Cam review, Jim, you,
From Deep, no, we've stayed, a lot of Deep activity is triggered if you're below what's called the extreme spring high tide. We have no work below that elevation. Honestly, I have not gone and done a area calculation if we're disturbing more than 5 acres or not, which would trigger a construction stormwater discharge review. But those are not the sort of reviews by Deep that are approved or denied. They're the sort of reviews that are received and commented on, that this is what you have to do. So the only one that I can think of off the top of my head that may be possible is the construction of more than 5 acres at a time. Other than that, there are none.
all right, so that's something that you could take care of, doing that kind of analysis.
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah,
Okay, very,
but that would be more attuned to the final site development plans. This is not an approval for final site. This is just initial concept approval.
I don't know if you're aware how long it takes Deep to do things these days. You may want to get on that right away.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
It just, Deep is supposedly understaffed, so it takes them a lot longer these days to get things through. Whether you need approval or not, you need some sort of consensus letter or whatever.
Right.
mhm. Okay, yeah, you might as well get in the queue. So, all right, any final comments, questions, or concerns from the commission or from Mr. Panico?
Yeah, I have a few I'd like to just bring up so we can begin to talk about it. I have some very significant concerns about the tightness of the layout. The houses are very, very close to each other. The houses on the opposite side of the road are relatively close. They're about 60 feet apart, which is not very much. The typical 10-foot spacing between the building sidewalls really disturbs me, especially when you look at the architecturals and you see all this fenestration on side walls. You're going to look from one unit 10 feet away into the next, your neighbor next door. It's totally isolated any views of the river. You drive down that driveway, you're not going to even be aware of that 10-foot gap. I just wonder whether this is the best solution if the goal is to get 50 or 51 units. I also have concern about, Jim mentioned it, coastal area management, so they're aware of it, and apparently they must be doing something about it, but I haven't seen anything about it yet. And I would be curious as to how they address the waterfront obligations of a site with directly on the waterfront. In the past, it's been addressed in many locations by preserving views and waterfront accessibility. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to put a marina on the property. So I would be interesting to see where they're going. I like the idea of having driveways in front of each unit, serving each unit, but because the units are so close together, over a distance of 600 feet, you're going to have 22 driveways. And that's, you're going to be driving down a street with all driveways. I don't know whether there's been any consideration at all given to a different form of development or maybe a different type of grouping that might not look so congested on the plan, but I have those concerns. Even if this property were in an R5 zone with the smallest single family lot you can create in the city of Shelton, you'd still have to have a minimum of 16 feet between buildings. So, and we have approved projects with spacing as small as 10 feet, but generally it's been involved with sidewalls would have no fenestration. So there are impacts. The tightness of the building, if you were taking a casual look down in that area, you'd never see through the buildings to the river.
Good. Anything else, Mr. Panico?
Well, that's kind of a major one. Those are my two major concerns, I guess, the tightness of the layout and the lack of any CAM information to date.
Okay. I think those are very legitimate concerns, and thank you for presenting those to us at this time.
As far as the basic overall layout, I noticed that this development is served by a single driveway. Are we comfortable with a single driveway serving 50 plus units? It's 180 feet before you get to an intersecting road to be able to branch off. And I looked at the adjoining parcel to see if there's any convenient way that you could provide an emergency connection, and I don't see it. So we might want to talk about that a little bit too. It would be very helpful. I'm sure the commission will realize that when they go through the next public hearing. It would be very helpful to see the two proposals as a composite as well, so we can begin to understand some of the interrelationships.
Okay. Does the state DOT regulate the number of openings to River Road?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yeah. And you'll see that we're eliminating the current driveway to 740 and relocating it across from Crescent Village very intentionally. You know, it would have been easier for us to grade it at the other location. And when you see the next application, we're going to point out that we're using only the existing driveway there. So we're very, very comfortable with the state DOT and how they would look at these two projects. I think they'll be very comfortable.
Okay. All right, last call for any final comments at this time. Okay, hearing none, is there a motion on this initial presentation to either continue or close? And I believe we're shooting more for continuation, seeing that staff has been asked to provide some information about that ordinance. Is there,
And they gotta find out about
the camp, right? So is there a Commissioner, I'd like to make a motion?
Commissioner Ticky, I'll motion to keep the public hearing open.
So there's a motion to continue the public hearing from Commissioner Ticky. Is there a second? And Commissioner Kelly has seconded. So on the motion to continue, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Ticky,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Lascos,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion to continue has passed by vote of 6-0. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. And we'll move on to our second public. Oh, I'm sorry. See what happens when I have my script. So let me back up. Is there anyone here in the auditorium that would like to comment on any item on this particular application? And I see no one here in the auditorium. Let me ask if there's anyone participating remotely by Zoom or via phone. If you would like to comment, please use Zoom's raise your hand feature or dial *9 on your phone. Okay, so Mr. Harbinson, before you start, Mr. Panico, do we need to rescind the motion to keep the public hearing open?
I suppose to be technically correct, you probably should.
Okay, so Commissioner Ticky?
Happy to, rescind my motion to continue this public hearing.
Okay, and Commissioner Kelly, okay. So on a roll call, Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Ticky?
Aye.
Commissioner Motto?
Aye.
Commissioner Lascos?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. So the rescind is passed by a vote of 6-0. So now I'll recognize there's only one person remotely. Mr. Rossetti? Okay. All right. So Mr. Harbinson, you want to identify yourself, please?
Sure. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thomas Harbinson, 15 Soundcrest Drive. I had a couple questions regarding the application. First of all, is this a simple lot line revision, and has that occurred with the creation of Lot 1? I note that that's not really a net neutral lot line revision. So is it the creation of its own parcel, or will this Lot 1 from application 2315 be appended to 762 River Road? And secondly, kind of referring to 762 River Road, in light of that kind of a thing, there was a split in that PDD 72 that did generate a real estate transfer tax, but it's not on the city's GIS system for an assessor map and lot. I had a question if this was I assume it's a private road into this development, and how that would be maintained or plowed, in particular where school buses might have to access the property and what the grade of that might be in the turning radiuses. I agree that if there was an emergency event, if the commission is comfortable with that number of units on a single dead end or cul-de-sac. And I didn't hear any mention about where guest parking would occur if there's a guest event, such as a birthday party and that sort of thing. And in light of the school buses concept, might there be some age restriction to the development? Or I didn't hear any mention about affordable housing count with it as well. In regards to a coastal area management plan, I believe there should be one done. In counter to Engineer Swift's presentation there, the boatyard, Murphy's Boatyard next door, and their appendage of the auto swage to their development, they do have a coastal area management plan, and they were going to modify that as they were appending the auto swage property to that. So I would assume that similar review would have to occur from the state for this particular parcel. The engineer Swift mentioned that the properties were outside of the 100-year flood zone, the FEMA flood zone, but I did notice on one of the maps that there was an X flood zone line that went right through the center of some of those buildings, and I didn't understand what that would be and how that might impact the development. Also, if there was some deterioration of the embankment, having looked at Google Earth imagery for the development over many years, I can't tell if they were taken at high tide and low tide, but there is kind of a change in the imagery as to where the embankment occurs. So if there was some sort of flooding event, I happen to be in Vermont right now, and I have seen tremendous amount of flooding and scoring on waterways, but how any kind of shoring or riprap might have to be, how it could be possibly accomplished in a post-event world from a significant flooding event. I want to commend the applicant with recognizing the property's contamination and taking upon themselves to remediate it, purchase a contaminated property in the first place with its phase 1 review. I'm very familiar with that, having owned a contaminated property in Derby. And then regarding the reports for the stormwater control, yes, the city, quote, engineer, end quote, for Shelton, should be compiling a report of all these. I believe it's called a W3 report, but it is right on the city's website, on the homepage for the city engineer's office. And their last annual report, it's required by state statute, which our former city true engineer, Bob Kulatz, was able to put in place, but they only check 1/3 of the storm drains in town. So this, on a private property, hopefully there will be some surety that the maintenance of that is done as well. And then lastly, it's been the recent practice to not refer applications to the Conservation Commission if it is not a subdivision and simply a zone change. But this is in the Housatonic Greenway, which is a significant part of our open space plan. And so I would hope that there would be a referral made to Conservation Commission to give commentary to make a better product in the outcome. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Harbinson. I would just ask that when you refer to the position of city engineer, that you not get into personalities, please. Thank you.
He is not a licensed engineer. I'll leave it at that.
That is a
Thank you.
matter that has to be brought up elsewhere. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Attorney Thomas, do you have any comments on these particular points that Mr. Harbinson raised?
Yes, the property division here would be accomplished as a free split based on the title search that I did when the property was purchased. So this would be a free split. PDD 72, as you will see in the next presentation, was subdivided, and I did that. Whether or not the assessor has picked it up as two separate lots, I'm not sure of. And the portion that's going to be amended to that PDD, the 2-point-something acres, would actually, once it's encompassed by the PDD and once the final site development plan is filed, it will become part of that PDD. It could be subdivided to its own parcel at some point down the road within the PDD, just like what that was done. But as far as 740 of the split between the portion going to PDD 72 and the part that's being proposed, they are that would be accomplished by a free split, and it would be reflected in the maps. It is reflected in the initial concept plan, and it would be reflected in the final site development plans. There is no intention to excuse me, I have a warning of a low battery. I'm going to plug in my computer. There is no intention. There is no intention at this point to offer affordable. These are condominiums, and your plan deals with your advisory affordable housing plan deals with attached residential units, residential rental units, and not with condominiums. We
Okay.
will, because we're going to keep the public hearing open, we will contact and see whether or not this property is required to have a CAM, keeping in mind that this is an initial concept development plan. And the reason in the Great River Water Club that we're going is the Great River Water Club application is for final site development plans. I think that's all I'm able
Now,
to
we have a
answer. I don't-
couple more. So one of the points right at the beginning was to confirm this would be a private road going
Yeah,
through.
if I could,
Yes, of course, it's a private road and it would be maintained by the association. It would be required, as in any condominium project.
Okay, and then what about school bus pick access?
well, first of all, let's correct a little terminology here. It's not a road, it's a driveway.
Okay,
You know, there's no proposal to create a quote unquote roadway, either private, public, or otherwise. So the driveway maintenance is certainly covered by the condominium people. As far as the design of the driveway and the widths for possibly accommodating school buses or other vehicles, the driveway is designed in accordance with the city street standards, because those standards are good for sight distances and safety and other things. So even though it is a driveway, it's being constructed much in line with any other city street might be constructed. And as I testified, it'll support city emergency vehicles, and that's certainly going to include any school buses if they ever find a need to enter onto the property. And to hit the final points, I did not say that the property is outside the FEMA flood limits. I think Mr. Harbinson maybe didn't quite hear correctly there. Certainly there is FEMA flood limit lines on this property. What I said was they are determined, the flood limits are determined by elevation 14, and you need to trace those lines along those contours on the property, and all of our development is well above those elevations. So let's straighten that out. We do have FEMA flood limits on our property. We just are nowhere near being inside them. Mr. Harbinson inferred that we need to do riprap or retaining walls or some other work. We are not proposing to do any of that kind of work. We don't see that any kind of work of that nature is going to be needed. And that's all borne out by the sections that I did and were approved by the Inland Wetlands Commission. That was the entire reason for doing those sections, is to show that that we weren't going to be having to shore anything up or stabilize any land in the future. So those things should be made clear.
okay, there was in the list I have, is this going to be age restricted?
No, it's not going to be interesting.
Okay, and then what is the plans right now for trash and recycle pickup?
Well, I think like any other condominium, I don't believe the public pickup is there, so they would have to provide for their own garbage disposal on the site. And with respect to the condominiums, I will double check on that. Just like with respect to the school buses, I believe school buses do not go on to go in through the condo projects. I think if
No,
they
they do
have
not.
to pick up in,
They do in some.
excuse me.
They do in some. So that's why we're asking for clarification. I believe.
Okay,
that-
I believe that's a Board of Ed decision, so I'm not, you know what I mean?
Not school buses, I'm
I will
sorry.
certainly check on it, yeah.
Garbage, recycling, not school buses.
Mhm.
School buses typically will not,
No.
although I do think they go into Aspetuck. In
Mm.
fact, I know they go into Aspetuck.
that's
a big rush.
This is, let's see if there's anything else.
There's nothing in our affordable housing plan that precludes including condominiums.
You are absolutely correct. It
That's
specifically
raw
mentions age-restricted condominiums
Mhm,
Not
that
the-
are, could be included in our affordable housing count.
mhm.
But it's not.
But Doesn't say we can't
Right.
have
No.
any new condos on it.
No, they can certainly be included in the count.
Mhm. Okay, and then, so that's everything. Is any, Commissioner or Mr. Panico, you have any further, comments, questions, or concerns for the applicant?
No, I think everything that I was concerned about has been touched on, and I'll be interested in seeing what the resolution is.
Okay.
Ms. Chairwoman, I would like to make a comment. Howard.
Sure.
Safir. I have owned several properties along River Road and developed them over the years. For 20 years, I have looked at this property, and this property has been a derelict property and been an eyesore for anybody living on River Road. I purchased this property, quite frankly, as my last development that I'm going to build. And I want to build something that people will be proud of and to finally enjoy the waterway of the beauty of the Housatonic, especially overlooking the golf course. So at no point in time do I want to put commercial buildings on there, or keep storage facilities. I want to bring the beauty of the water to the people. And the whole purpose here is to build high-end luxury living. And for people my age and probably above, but not wanting to have my hands tied in terms of age, we're putting in elevators. We're going to do amenities. There's not one development that I've done in Shelton that has not been first class. And this is just an extension of that. And I will love to get this development completed, and that'll be my final phase of development, both in Sheldon or Bridgeport or Fairfield, wherever that may be.
Have you considered a banquet facility would be my first question.
Yeah,
Talk about-
that would be great, but unfortunately, we wouldn't make money. So it's that's nice, but at the end of the day, we
Well, I
paid
mean,
it.
you can refer to people having views of the river and that sort of thing, but I guess it comes down to more making money than making people happy with the view. Just my opinion.
Well, no, that's not the case whatsoever. So if you look at banquet facilities around Fairfield County, you will see that it's been a very challenging business and continues to be a very challenging business.
I think the water view's doing pretty well. I could be mistaken, but.
Could you expand upon what you were saying, that you would be offering amenities? Seeing that question did come up from Commissioner Parkins, but it wasn't anything in particular.
The amenities are going to be within the home itself. It's there will not be a pool. Unfortunately, we would love to build a boardwalk that would go from downtown all the way up to Sikorsky, and we've spoken to the mayor about it a million times. But it doesn't look like that's in the cards.
Mhm. Okay. All right. So, what's the commission's feeling on, I don't think we automatically refer some things to the Conservation Commission. So is it consensus of the commission that we do authorize staff to do whatever it has to be done to get this off, referred to the
Typically,
Conservation Commission?
isn't their response really going to be whether they want to buy the property or not, or whether the city should buy the property? I mean, the property's already owned, right?
Right, and I thought it might be more about what it could be done with the riverfront. So if they look at the plans and say you're using, it's not enough green space or something. I don't know.
Well, don't they have the
It's
right
only
just to-
recommendations.
Can't they submit a letter anyway?
Sure they
Submit
can.
a letter. I
Yeah.
don't know that we have to request it.
Okay, then we're,
Request it,
no.
or would we be setting precedent to do it for all
Exactly.
properties?
We haven't.
They certainly have the
asked.
freedom
No.
to submit a letter with their
Mhm.
opinion and recommendations.
That would definitely be a better approach. So we'll leave it as that being the case. All right, if there aren't any more comments, questions, or concerns, is there a new motion to continue the public hearing?
Commissioner Ticky, I'll make the new motion to continue the public hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner Tiki, and Commissioner Kelly has indicated that he'll second it. So on the motion to continue, Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki?
Aye.
Commissioner Motto?
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Lascos?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Motion to continue has passed by a vote of 6-0, and this application will be on the agenda of an upcoming meeting. Okay, so we'll move on now to our second public hearing, application 2316. Commissioner Motto, would you read the call for the public hearing?
Initiation of application 23-16, Dominic Thomas for Bishop Development of Shelton LLC at 762 and a portion of 740 River Road, Assessors Map 21, lots 35 and 50, for a major modification of a PDD, modification of initial development concept plans, and amendment to the statement of uses and standards as amended to accommodate the additional land in PDD number 72 and development of a 29,973 square foot medical office building. Initial development concept plans as previously approved and amended, and is further amended herein entitled Initial Development Concept Plans, Plan Development District number 72, Phase 3, 762 River Road and portion of 740 River Road, Shelton, Connecticut, prepared for Bishop Development of Shelton LLC, prepared by James R. Swift, PE, professional engineer, landscape architect, dated August 22, 2023. Are on file in the planning and zoning office. This property is generally bound as follows: northerly by 740 River Road, southerly by 770 River Road, and easterly by westerly by 735 River Road.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Motto. This particular application was also accepted for review on September 13th. And on the city's website are following documents: the zone change application, the amendment to the second amended statement of uses and standards, the civil plans, and architecturals, and a drainage report. Okay, is the applicant ready to present?
Yes, Madam Chair, Attorney Dominic Thomas, Cohen and Thomas, 315 Main Street, Derby, Connecticut, representing the applicant. Again, this is an amendment to PDD 72, which was approved with a commercial building in the front, which contains a restaurant, a couple other food service entities, and a also contains a commercial use, personal services use, and a ortho medical office. And in the back is a medical office building, I believe, related to orthopedics also. At the first amendment, this property was subdivided so that a REIT could purchase the rear property with the medical office building. That was accomplished a few years ago and completed. Now it's the intention of the developer, Bishop Development of Shelton, to now do another office building, medical office building, and this would become this land, the 2-point-something acres on which it would sit, which would become part of PDD 72, adding another medical office building. And in keeping with the requirement, not the preference, I should say, of the DOT to reduce the number of curb cuts on State Road. Again, as you heard mentioned by Mr. Swift in the prior hearing, we are closing off the one main entrance to 740, and the proposed relocated entrance would locate a T intersection with the condominiums across the way, and the access to the building we're proposing for PDD 72 would be through the same driveway for PDD 72. So with that, I would call upon Mr. Swift, and I will bring up the
The site plans. Okay. Question, while you're doing that, Attorney Thomas, on
Yeah.
the application, one-page application on number 7 says area of zone change, a 93,000 square foot area of 2.1414 acres. Is the 1.83 acres that is to be transferred part of that 2.1414 measurement?
I believe, and I believe the lot 1 is 2.14 acres. Let me blow that up for you. And
Mhm.
That's what
Yeah.
they said before.
Right, that becomes part of it.
this is the 2.1414 acres that I am referring to.
Right, and that's gonna become part of the PDD to the right where Barker Restaurant is and medical building in the back. Right,
Yes.
so is that already calculated in that 2.14? That is part of that property where Parker and the medical building is in the back.
Just a minute, let me bring up the amended statement of uses and standards. I believe I have those numbers. The purpose of the amendment is to increase the size to 6.09 acres. By adding, I think I may have a typo there, the 92,000 square feet to the existing. So the total size is going to be 6.09 acres
What's the other one?
of PDD 72.
So
Is
what's
that
the
what
pro-
you're
what is the
requesting?
proposed, what is the proposed PDD going to be then minus that 2.1?
You keep saying mine, the proposed PDD is going to be 762 River Road plus the 2.1414 acres.
Right, and of that 2.1414 acres, is it the 1.83 already in that calculation?
I'm pretty sure that this is Jim Swift. I think I might be mistaken when I used the 1.83 previously. We're gonna have to
Okay.
Yeah,
just
clarify that.
maybe that's what it's has to do. Okay, all right, go ahead, then, and if, at a future meeting, just clarify that for us.
In the civil plan set, Jim, you just let me know what you want to review.
Yeah, go to the master plan and the site plans. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So again, Jim Swift, professional engineer, landscape architect. Yeah, I think we have to make sure that we've got our figures correct and that those areas that I gave are correct. So we'll get on that and we'll confirm those with the commission. So looking at the master plan, for the sake of trying to clarify, I've broken this down into 3 phases. The first phase that we actually constructed was the retail building at the front of the site. And then after some time lag after that, we actually built the offices for the orthopedic specialty group in the rear of the site. And I'm going to call those phase 2. And again, so for clarity, I'm referring to this new application for expansion of PDD 72 as phase 3. And that's just semantics for trying to clarify things a little bit. For phase 3, what we're proposing is a 3-story medical office building. We're proposing to add 76 parking spaces for a total parking count of 363, which is about 15 spaces more than required And that's enumerated in the site data for parking. And again, this is all shared parking. As you can see, all the parking lots are connected. As I indicated before, we're using the existing driveway entrance that's there now, providing access to the front of the medical building, and also connecting all the rear parking areas in the back of the proposed medical office building. And if you could go to the next plan, Dom, for this enlarged site plan. So this is just shows a little bit more detail that's going on as to how we're providing entrances into the building, both in the back and the front of the building, showing more handicap parking spaces than are required by code just because of the use of this particular building. I do show some of the major appurtenances that are necessary, such as the transformer, the trash area located, the masonry enclosed trash area towards the back of the building. These are things that normally we can figure out later on, but I like to show them up front whenever we can. And you'll notice to the left of the property, we have a little bit of room to do something that we normally don't have room to do, which is a surface stormwater detention pond. So going to the next plan, which is the grading and utility plan. You can see that we have all the stormwater requirements for phases 1 and 2 were installed. They discharge towards the back of the site. They do not affect the drainage for the phase 3 development in any way. The phase 3 development stormwater goes to the surface detention pond, and then it is discharged through a series of pipes out to the discharge that, remembering the condominium plan that we looked at a while ago, was near units 1 and 2. As I said before, these two plans, the previous condominium plan and this medical building, were comprehensively designed together for the inland wetlands review. And the commission did mention that they want to see both of these plans put together, which is very easy for me to do. I just need to show you the plan that Wetlands has approved, and you'll see how these things all tie together. So again, for the record, inland wetlands has approved the discharge for stormwater for this phase 3 of PDD number 72. You'll also see, going across the front parking lot of the phase 3 medical building, the low velocity sanitary sewer line connects over to the front of the phase 1 existing retail building. And again, for the record, that was approved by the WPCA of Shelton. And lastly, for the record, that this medical office building has all the utilities required to construct it, city water systems by Aquarian, electric, communications, so on and so forth. So the next plan is some of the sort of boilerplate, if you will, for initial development plans. This plan was inserted in this set by accident. This plan has absolutely nothing to do.
Condos?
Yeah. So again, another computer gremlin. But the stormwater the soil erosion control plan is very straightforward. All the drainage is easily directed out to the front surface detention pond. That's where all of our erosion control would take place. And you'll see a more detailed plan for that in the detailed development plans. The next plan is the landscape plan. Again, it's conceptual in nature, shows how we're going to install the major shade trees, some of the buffering plantings, things of that nature. And it's very general in nature because in this case, there's nothing really in particular that needs to be addressed for initial development plans, and you'll see a lot more detail in the detailed development plans. The next plan is again a plan that you don't normally see in initial development plans. But these are the details for the stormwater system, the details of the outlet structure, the sedimentation basin, things of that nature. Those needed to be done for the Inland Wetland Commission for them to adequately review the plan. And then the last plan that we have in this set is again the sanitary sewer low velocity line, which the WPCA and the city engineer like to see, just to make sure that things are all copacetic with how all that lays out. So in this respect, the addition for PDD 72, the additional building and property, is fairly straightforward. There's nothing particularly complicated about it, either in an engineering perspective, in a traffic perspective, or anything of that nature. And if the commission has any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Mr. Swift, on sheet 8 shows a black vinyl chain link fence. Where exactly is it proposed that be installed?
That's going to be around the detention pond. That's fairly common. And it also, I like to put that fence detail on because we do have, are likely to have some retaining walls between the properties, and that black vinyl fence needs to go on top of those retaining walls as well.
Okay, and the wood guide rail that is shown right below it on sheet 8, where is that proposed for?
Again, that's the same criteria for when we have a slope separating us from an adjacent property. Before you get to the retaining wall and the black vinyl fence, you'll have that wood guide rail to protect both of those appurtenances.
Yeah, I understand the
Yeah,
philosophy, but where in the plan do you have it?
Let's go to the grading plan, and I think I can show those.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't show it on that. Yeah, here we go. When you go back to the back of the property, yeah, back there, when I put both of these plans together, you're going to see that that's a pretty good slope going down into the condominium site. And so that's where the wood guide rail would go, and also up by the detention pond. Yeah, I did have some slopes. I think towards the rear, phase 2, the orthopedic site. I think I have a retaining wall on the condominium site that's going to require a guide rail on top of our PDD number 72. Yeah, back in there somewhere. So yeah, I think I need to, at the least, show what I did when I tried to do these two plans and separate them is make sure that they could stand on their own. And in doing that, I tried not to overcomplicate one site being confused with another. But I think in this particular case, I may have taken that precept a little too far. And I should show on PDD 72, I should show some of the proposed work on the condominium site and the things that we need to do on PDD 72 to accommodate that. So I will add that to these drawings.
Very good. And, there are 10 spaces when you pull into the driveway that are between the proposed medical building and the existing one. Do you have enough of a drive lane there? Are you proposing to remove those 10 spaces? And whatever the end of those parking spaces are right past it as you go to the rear of the lot?
Yeah, we have enough space in there. I believe that we use 26 feet. And I'll have to confirm that when I get a sheet plan in front of me that I can actually scale. But yeah, between those 10 spaces and the curb at the existing retail building is more than enough space to maintain two-way traffic. And again, if we need to increase that driveway width, we'll just have to push those 10 spaces a little closer to the medical building.
Well, the concern is if somebody pulls in, when they go to leave, they have to back up. You're backing into the driveway. So.
Are you talking about here? These spaces?
These.
Oh,
Yeah,
up there.
yeah.
He's coming out, right?
Yeah.
Those spaces.
Yeah.
Well, again, that's why I got rid of the similar spaces that
Towards the
are
front.
immediately at the front of the driveway.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so, those spaces are certainly up for discussion. I'd like to hear Tony's opinion on those and we'll go from there.
Mr. Swith, are we gonna see a drawing of the building, or is that coming?
Yeah, that's.
Yes,
they-
yes, yeah.
Jim, is your intention to totally fence this off so that there's no way that the folks that would be in the condos would be able to walk to these buildings? Unless they walk on.
I think if we wanted to create a pedestrian connection between the two projects, I think it's doable. If that was the question.
I think it
And
would.
again, we're not talking about,
Get a burger, go to Parker's.
yeah. I know, I think that's doable. We've got, again, we're not talking about the condominiums anymore, but if and when we do start talking about the condominiums again, you're going to see that there's a pretty good green space between the units that are closest to the River Road. I believe it's on the order of 70 feet or something like that. So just talking about the limited landscape or streetscape between these two developments, there's certainly room to do a strong pedestrian connection.
Along with a little dog park. Because otherwise you're just gonna have people walking into this facility to walk their dogs.
Yeah, no, I think that's an appropriate thing to look at.
Can I ask about the detention ponds? How that would be managed in terms of vegetation? It's a pretty steep slope, I gather, on that.
I'm sorry, was that a question for me? I didn't quite hear it.
I want to know how that's going to be managed and not be a big leak.
How's the vegetation going to be in that detention pond?
Well,
gonna
the vegetation within the pond itself is very specific. If you go to the detail plan, Dom, just page down a few. Yeah, pass that drawing. Keep going. Yeah, in the bottom of the previous sheet.
Sheet
Yeah,
7?
just go down a little bit more.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, our detention basins that I design, I've got sort of a formula that's been worked out with inland wetlands over the years. The 5 feet of the side slopes and the bottoms get a certain plantings of grass species, a rice cut grass and a hop sedge that forms the perimeter of the water. The water itself at the bottom of the basin, I don't have to plant that. The cattails are going to come in, guaranteed. They do every single time. And if the commission cares to drive by any detention basin I've done in the last 35 years, they're full of cattails, and that's exactly what they should be. Now, once you get up over the higher up on the slope, in my preliminary landscape plans, I like to show evergreens around them. Sometimes if the embankments are tall enough, I'll reference John Paul's subdivision on Booth Hill Road that had the commission remembers, it was a very steep slope. It's probably 30 feet high down to that detention pond. And what we did there is rather than planting trees far apart on center, we actually planted red maple whips, something, as thick as your finger. And we planted them every 3 or 4 feet. And everybody knows how red maples grow. Those are going to fill in that embankment and stabilize it within 3 or 4 years. I don't think that's appropriate in this particular situation because I don't think these embankments are that tall. But we do, I certainly look at things like that when we get into the detailed plans.
I appreciate that. And just know that I have detention ponds on either side of my property and they're all loaded with invasive species. Not just the put in there initially, it's maintenance. And they get really rangy, really a mess.
Yeah, Phragmites and barberry are the greatest dangers. I'm not aware of any, certainly there's Phragmites along the river. I didn't see anywheres along our frontage. I think the biggest colony of it is probably over by the dump, but I'm not sure. But we look for that kind of stuff invading in here. But I don't think it's a danger immediately here.
It's not a long-term maintenance plan. It's going to be a mess. I don't care what you put in there initially.
Exactly.
So, just saying.
Well, it's going to look like a wetland. I mean, no question about that.
Like the mugwort and Japanese knotweed and multiflora rose and
Unkempt, unsightly.
Well,
Okay, anything else for Mr. Swift before we move on to Mr. Mingalello? Okay, Attorney Thomas, is it Mr. Mingalello's turn?
It is Mr. Mingalello's turn.
Thank you.
All right, just identify yourself for the record.
Good evening. Joe Mingalello and Associate Architects, 90 Huntington Street, Shelton. Let's just start with the floor plan. It's disappeared.
Can't you see my screen?
No,
No,
it's
anything
off.
with
That one is off, that one's on.
Yeah, these two.
You're on, too. You're off too.
Drop signal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, if it's coming back on. Maybe not.
Hold on, we have a little technical.
Difficulty here.
Mine says Safari can't open up the program.
All right,
Mine says it's connecting. but-
Oh, here it is.
there it
It's
is,
back.
it's back. We're coming back. We're almost there.
Here we are.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Mingalello.
First floor, can you pan down a little bit? There you go. First floor plan, you saw where the building was located. We created a little portico here. It's a medical use, so people that have any kind of disability, they can get out when it's raining and miserable and get into the building. We have a center core, 2 elevators there. And we have access out the back. So we have basically a walkthrough, no matter where you're parking. It's relatively convenient to get into the building. This is a footprint of about 10,000 and change at this level. And then the second floor right next to it to the left, same core goes up, 2 exit stairs on each side, fire stairs. And then next level down. The same size, 10,000 and change.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. No, you got it. The third
Okay.
floor was the elevations. You got it. You had it. Okay. I'm gonna pan up a little bit. And this floor, the third floor is about 8,000 and change. So the total is 29,750, I believe, almost 30,000 square feet. Okay. The elevations, the architecture is the same as next door, 762, and the building into the rear, which is 760, that is occupied by orthopedic specialty group. So, and it's, I mean, doesn't see it here, but the gray is brick to match next door. The dark brown color that is shown is really a very light stucco that matches next door, and same thing with the glazing. So everything is in terms of the architecture from the 2 buildings next door. This is the third building, and they're all the same. Okay.
Are they all occupied by Connecticut Ortho?
The one in the back is ortho. Yeah, this one, my understanding, they be coming in here too, some of it. Yes,
More ortho.
a lot of orthopedic stuff going on
Joint
today.
replacements are a
That's
big
right.
business.
You better believe
We
it.
got an
They're
aging,
all falling apart.
aging population.
You got it. So it's the same architecture, it's just adding another building, and this is the exact same height as 760 in the back, 3 stories above grade.
Mhm.
So, and so it all fits in very nicely.
Pretty much cloned what you have. in the back.
Exactly, very simple. You got it.
Mhm.
So it's being built for a medical entity.
Strictly for it.
requires
Yes.
Much space.
Yes, oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's the one office industry today that's expanding is the medical
Medical.
field. Yeah, everybody else, nobody's building office space.
Joe,
Right.
any reason why the rear elevation doesn't really match the front elevation? It's
Square
highly
foot,
visible, it's highly visible no matter where you look at the building.
I mean, there's side elevation where it drops off the back.
No, I'm saying the rear elevation as opposed to the front elevation. Why can't they just be consistent?
Well, well, they are, it's that what happens is, the third floor is 8,000 square feet. I mean, we wanted to reduce, make it a total of 30 plus thousand to match the front. We'd be happy to do that, but it's gonna add more square footage to the building, that's all.
Mr. Panico, are you referring on the front elevation over the doorway? the entrance
I'm
door?
looking at the drawing that's in front of us. And
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't know why that feature over the entry can't be the same.
Go to
Or
the
back.
back,
It
Go to
doesn't
the
expand any floor space.
go to the side elevation.
Joe, I think he's talking, this is what Tony is talking about, this area
Right.
here.
I know.
Why can't this be this, is what he's saying.
That's all I'm
Why
talking
can't-
about.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you go to the side elevation, you'll see why. There
okay.
you go. That's why.
You can't have the glass going
All
up.
the way
but-
up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't,
Okay.
you're right.
How about the flat
I
roof?
did not realize that.
And it steps that way because of parking. We
Mhm.
couldn't accommodate more square footage without reducing the parking.
Oh,
That's the reason.
All right.
I
Yeah,
thought we
no,
had
I
a few
agree. We
extra
would have been
spaces.
happy to do that. Would have been great.
Yeah.
But
None-
it's a parking thing, so we're, we're trying to work.
I thought Jim said we had a few extra spaces.
Yeah, he did.
Again, there's no evidence at all on this site of any parking issues whatsoever. Certainly, this is a PDD. If the commission feels that the parking count that we adopted from the PDD is too high and there's too much blacktop for the space, we would be glad to add the square footage to the building and keep the parking the same.
Yeah, we
And
would love
reduce
to architecturally. I mean, that would make sense. Last thing we wanted to do was step it like that, but. it was-
Well, I will tell you, and now looking back at my question about making a link for people to walk, this is going to be prime parking for people that are having parties that don't have visitor parking at the condo.
Mhm. True.
I don't mind this configuration.
We would be happy to make this consistent and have both sides look the same.
Yeah,
It's not,
that's a commission decision. But-
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any further comments, questions, or concerns from commission or from Mr. Monaco?
I have a couple of questions for Jim on the site plan, if I may.
Go right ahead, Mr. Monaco.
Could we put the site plan up?
Sure. You want the full site plan?
Yes, primarily the street portion of it.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Yeah, so, yeah, we can't. Good point.
That's it, just, okay. If we can drop it just a little bit.
Yeah, I am trying to, okay.
That's good, that's good. When I look at this and I come to the conclusion, we're talking about a total combined development of 96,500 square feet, more or less. And we're talking about 363 parking spaces, and we're servicing it by one single driveway. And that disturbs me. And I think in this particular case, there's no reason on earth why we can't redesign that entry driveway and increase the exit side of it so that there's 2 lanes exiting, separated by a median, and the ability then to devote each lane to an exclusive left and right turn. I think the whole operation will function much better. And there's room. I don't see any reason there's space there to do it.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, we have to go back to the state to get this through. It wouldn't surprise me at all that the state's going to require something like that.
Because otherwise, from the state's point of view, what your bottom line would be, well, okay, so we'll leave it the way it is and we'll put a new entryway for the new development. And that doesn't make sense. I like your choice. I just want to make sure we have an entry and exit that will function properly under all circumstances. And there are times when River Road traffic is very heavy, and the ability to make a left turn coming out of the driveway might be difficult. And at least if you got the 2 lanes exiting, you can always have the right turn movements.
Right. Yep, I agree.
Let's see, I think that was the only other concerns I had were all relative detailed stuff that you already began to address, Jim. The guardrail concerns, they weren't shown. I was beginning to wonder if you were going to have them or not have them, but you've addressed the areas that I wasn't concerned for. And the other question I had in my mind is a single rubbish location going to be large enough to support this, or is what you've shown need to be a little bit larger?
I mean, that's an operational question. Certainly I've got a couple of spaces to spare. I mean,
Yeah.
This is my standard 10 by 10 with a single gate that I show.
I would ask you to modify your standard, however, and obviously, as we always do, make sure the exterior materials are consistent with the building design, and
Right.
B, to provide for a walking gate into the area with its own sidewalk connection.
Sure. Yep.
Mhm.
But other than that, I think we've pretty much touched on, again, the general question is, this is a piece of property. It's in the coastal area. You need to address why you do or do not have to do something about coastal area management. So,
Well, I mean, we do have to. I mean, we have to submit an application to the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission.
right,
And correct me if I'm wrong, it's the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission that for certain developments it's mandatory to refer it up to deep in Hartford.
right. And as we learned in the past, there are many times when we do not agree with what Hartford tells us. So,
Right, and it's not their call, it's your call.
right. So, but that on the other project, the condominium project, that could very well have some impact on the layout of your plan.
Well, it could, but that's why I want to make the distinction between as long as I stayed above the extreme spring high tide, and off the top of my head, I can't tell you what that elevation is in this area, then everything that all of Deep's involvement here is advisory. Once I got below that elevation, it's no longer advisory. So.
And the other thing to keep in mind, Jim, is when you look at the CAM, it may very well be that some of the solution to that might be easier to do at the medical building level in the backyard. If you're looking to open up views to the river or provide some convenient parking spaces or whatever, and they actually could be functional for both developments. So,
right,
just keep that in the back of your mind.
Right.
Anything else, Mr. Panico?
No, those are my major concerns. That's it.
Very good. Any other final comments, questions, or concerns from the commission before we open it up to the public?
Chair, this is Commissioner Lascos.
Yes, go right ahead.
This is for the architect. Is it a flat roof or is there a pitch to it?
It's a flat roof.
Would you consider making some sort of hip roof or something?
Well, we were just trying to match what's already there. I don't know if we want to deviate from the existing. So,
Or all your HVAC control?
oh, everything's up.
Equipment up on the roof.
Yeah, everything, especially,
Mhm.
yeah, everything's hidden. It's all up on a flat roof, so you don't see any mechanical equipment.
Mhm. Anything else, Commissioner Lascos?
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no more questions, if there's anybody in the auditorium that would like to make any comments on this particular application, please step forward at this time. And if there's anyone from the public who is participating remotely, either by Zoom or by phone, and you would like to make comments, please use Zoom's raise your hand feature or dial *9 on your phone. There is no one here in the auditorium that's stepping forward. Mr. Rossetti, is there anyone from the public participating remotely?
Madam Chairman, Tom Harbinson here. I don't have a raise my hand feature because I'm still as a panelist, but I'd like to speak.
Okay. All right. Before you start that, I had intended to ask the applicant about the engineering report that had been filed. Is there anything in particular here that has not already been mentioned when we're talking about stormwater management? Mr. Swift, is there
No,
anything?
as I said before, the only difference between the two storm reports, the one for the previous application and for this application is they were separated in that the hydrographs and the discharges from the surface detention pond for PDD 72 is in the report you have in front of you now. The discharges and things specific to the underground systems in the condominiums is in that report. And then certain aspects of both reports address the actual discharge at the water course. So no, there's nothing in this engineering report that is of any concern.
Mhm. Good. All right, so Mr. Harbinson, you're recognized. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thomas Harbinson, 15 Soundcrest Drive. It may be a technicality, but I see that the application was submitted by Bishop Development LLC, and they are the owner of 762 River Road, Lot 1. However, this application 2316 does impact land that is currently owned by 740 River Road LLC that is designated to be a free split. And so there may be similar ownership behind the scenes, but technically they are different legal entities owning the properties being affected. Additionally, there's a parking reconfiguration on Lot 2 that is owned by MMAC-HI Fairfield LLC, and that does not seem to be a party to the application as well. I have eaten at Parker, and there's a loss of 15 parking spots replaced by 5. And I've never really seen the parking lot used to capacity, so I'm sure that is going to work well. But I would concur with Mr. Panico regarding the multiple exit lanes. That would be helpful even in the existing conditions. Next, I was wondering if this is a detailed development component, but the monument sign along River Road, if it would incorporate this building into the other tenants of the combined access area. And while a coastal area management plan may be advisory and it's a decision up to P&Z, I would just say that's similar to the Conservation Commission being advisory for specimen trees or stone walls. We're not just about buying open space. And then lastly, I heard some conversation about Pinecrest and its historic use. Crescent Village obviously replaced that concert area, but the banquet facility that was down on the river, I think it was called River's Edge, that property was at the sports center. So this property here was never part of that banquet facility operation of years gone by. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Attorney Thomas, do you have any comments regarding what Mr. Harbinson?
Yes, we have, because of the blend of ownerships, we have permission from all the landowners to make the application. If the final site development plans, and I will clarify exactly, the property that is being added to PDD 72 would be conveyed to, probably conveyed to Bishop Development of Shelton at that point, which is the owner of 762, the front portion of 762. But those at the final site development plan stages, those issues, ownership issues and consolidation issues as necessary that pointed out by Mr. Harbinson will be addressed.
Okay,
They don't need to be addressed as the PDD, separate PDDs with ownership.
Excuse me?
You're asking for a zone change for both
Right,
properties.
correct. Right, and we have the permissions. We can submit a permission letter if you want. You know, I mean, we have the permission of the owners, because of the 3 owners, because there is a common thread of ownership between the 3 entities.
That may,
Yeah.
that may be a good idea to submit that, because I think our
Mhm.
regulations.
No problem at all. No problem at all. For the record, we will do that.
Okay. Okay, final call for anybody remotely. Okay, any other final comments, questions, or concerns from the commission? Okay, if not, is there a motion on this particular application?
I'll make a motion to keep it open.
Okay, there's a motion to continue from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Perkins.
Okay. Okay, on the motion to continue made by Commissioner Kelly, seconded by Commissioner Parkins. Commissioner Amato?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki?
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos?
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins?
Aye.
And Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Motion to keep the public hearing open has passed by vote 6-0, and this will be on the agenda of an upcoming meeting. Thank you very much to our
Thank you
applicant
all.
Person.
and their representatives. Oh, don't be strangers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're all invited.
Like old times.
Maybe
Exactly.
may start after discussion to be required. At some point.
I like that idea.
Hmm. All right, so last item on the agenda is approval of minutes. I had one comment on the ones for August 30th. When we opened it up to the public hearing, the second person, well, go back, for the first two people, if the names of the two persons that spoke, Norma and Peter, we checked, I mean, pretty sure from looking it up on the land records that, the second person, Peter Gomez, the spelling of the last name is Gomis. And for some reason, looking at Norma's last name, I don't believe that's correct either. Or I'd like to have that verified about the spelling.
Was the sign-in sheet not legible?
I'm not sure. So,
Oh.
Mr. Rossetti, does, staff have access to that sign-in sheet? Yeah. Okay,
If you can, if it's legible.
absolutely. Okay. All right, so is there, anyone that have any comments or,
No, I have
changes
none.
for August 30th?
I'll make a motion to approve
Okay, the motion to approve from Commissioner Parkins,
upon verifying the spellings. of the-
spelling of the name, okay? Contingent on the, spellings to be checked and corrected if necessary. So on the motion to approve August 30th, Commissioner, Dickey,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
I'm gonna abstain. I was absent.
sure, okay. Commissioner Amato,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Motion to approve the August 30th minutes have been approved by a vote of 5-0-1. Okay, the other one is September 13th. The only thing I would recommend is to be clarified. Just before item number 2, when we were talking about the sign approval for Jersey Mike's. I think the point I was trying to get across, and maybe I didn't state it, and we may not have to change it, but my point was that the sign on the monument stand out and the signs do not all blend together due to background color. So,
So you're talking about the monument sign.
yes. Yeah.
We actually discussed that at the sign committee meeting and
Mhm.
we looked at other monument signs along Bridgeport Avenue and there is no consistency. in
Yeah, the
that.
big Y, my big Y is definitely, and I think I brought up at the meeting that I was happy to have a conversation with the property owner and he said, then, it's too bad that we hadn't seen each other and he just brought up, just previous to that, a new tenant had moved in and he would have had the sign company make a couple of flips there. But I don't know if that's part of the release that they get a specific space
Yeah.
on there. So, but, in any event, does anybody have any other comments for the, September 13 minutes?
No,
Okay, so is there a motion on this particular?
I'll make that motion. Approve the minutes.
Okay. All right, there's a motion from Commissioner Parkins
Second.
and seconded by Commissioner Kelly to approve
Mhm.
and on a roll call. Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Amato,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Motion to approve the September 13th minutes been approved by a vote of 6-0. All right, ladies and gentlemen, seeing that there's no other items on the agenda, meeting is adjourned as of 8:26 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.